Hi guys, we are on page 297 and we're on the we're on the third part. So chapter 12, part 3, number 9. Select the healing brush hidden under the spot healing brush. So here's your spot healing brush. We're going to click and hold and get our healing brush. Select a brush with a size of 45 pixels and the hardness of 100%. So 45 pixels, and then your hardness right here should be 100%. Alt-click on an area of her cheek to create a sampling source. So let's blow up on her face. And we're going to go back to that healing brush. We're going to hit Alt and then just click on her face to get a sampling. Brush over the large mole on her cheek, which I think I've already brushed over that part, but I'll go ahead and brush over this one here. You'll smooth out the texture later. Use the healing brush tool to heal any larger blemishes that remain. So if I wanted to get rid of this, I'm going to notice that the color doesn't match up quite right. So I'm going to press and hold Alt again, and then come over here, and we're going to brush that out. Same thing over here. Alt, click, and then come over, and we can brush out these areas. Let's do that to this mole here. I'm going to hit Alt, click, to get a sampling, and then brush that out. Let's do that for this little blemish. Alt click and then brush. Select the sponge tool hidden under the dodge tool in the options bar or in your tool panel. Okay, so here's your dodge tool. We're going to click and hold and grab your sponge tool, and then this is your option bar. In the options bar, make sure that vibrance is selected. So right here is vibrance, okay. And then select the following settings. The brush size needs to be 35. Brush hardness at 0. Mode should be saturate. Flow should be 50%. Drag the sponge tool over the irises of her eyes to increase their saturation. So we're going to bring out her eyes and make them a little brighter. Same thing here. You can see how it's gotten a little more blue, a little more green. Okay. Turn the page, page 298. Change the brush size to 70 pixels. And the flow to 10%. Oops. Try that again. Then brush the sponge tool over the lips to saturate them. Change the brush size to 45 pixels. The flow to 50%. Then choose Desaturate from the Mode menu. So it looks like we're going to take some color out. Brush over the corner of the eye to reduce the red. Right here. Get rid of all those veins, which happens from a long day and a lot of makeup. Okay. So now we're going to select the dodge tool, and it's hidden under the sponge tool. In the options bar, change the brush size to 60, which it already is, 60. And the exposure to 10%. Okay. This is your exposure. Choose Highlights from the Range menu. Brush the dodge tool over the eyes, the whites, and the irises to brighten them. With the dodge tool still selected, select Shadow from the Range menu in the Options bar. Use the dodge tool to lighten the shadow area above the eyes and the areas around the irises to bring out the color. So right here, and then above her eyes. Alright, page 299, step 1. Choose Select Color Range. In the Color Range dialog box, choose Skin Tones. So you'll have a little dialog box that's come up to look like that. And then choose Skin Tones. The preview shows that much of the image has been selected. Select Detect Face. Faces or face. The preview and the selection changes. Now the face, hair highlights, and lighter areas of the dress are selected. Decrease the fuzziness slider to 10, which mine's already 10. You'll probably have to change yours to refine the selection. Then choose OK. So the selection appears in the image itself. It's animated by the dotted lines. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see what's going on here. Click the Curves icon in the Adjustments panel. Choose Red from the Color Channel menu in the Properties panel. Okay, so this is the Properties panel. We're going to come over here and choose Red. Then click in the middle of the graph and pull the curve straight down very slightly. The selected areas become less red. Be careful not to pull the curve down too far or a green cast will appear. You can see the difference you've made by clicking the Toggle Layer Visibility button. So we're going to click in here and drag straight. But before we do that, we need to make sure we're in the right tool. So make sure you're in Edit Points to modify the curve. So we're going to click that tool, and now we're going to come over here and drag straight down. Okay. So too green. Way too green. This is where we were, right about here. You can see we're taking out some of that red. Okay, select the corrections layer. Right here. Select the corrections layer and choose Layer. Duplicate layer. Alright. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go to Layer, Duplicate Layer. Name the layer Surface Blur. And then hit OK. So now we've got another layer in here. With the Surface Blur layer selected, choose Filter, Blur, Surface Blur. In the Surface Blur dialog box, leave the radius at 5 pixels and move the threshold to 10 pixels, and then hit OK. With the Surface Blur layer selected, change the opacity in the Layers panel to 40%. Right here, 40%. Alright, page 302, number 5. Select the eraser tool. In the options bar, select a brush between 10 and 50 pixels. Definitely not 500 or 600. Okay. With 10% hardness, this should say 10% right here. Set the opacity to 90%. Here's your opacity. This needs to be 90%. Brush over the eyes, eyebrows, and defining lines of the nose and detail of the dress. You're erasing part of the blurred layer to let the sharpened layer show below. So let's blow it up so you can actually see what you're doing. And I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger. And they want us to erase part of the eyebrows to show more detail for her eyebrows and her nose. So right here we can define this line a little bit more. And then details of her dress. So I'm going to make my brush bigger again. And let's see if we see more detail on her dress, which we definitely can. Hide that property panel. Okay. I think it would also look nice if we were to show more detail on the flower too. Zoom out so you can see the entire image. Save your work. And your book actually wants you to flatten your image, but I do not want you to flatten your image because I want to see all of this. I'd also like to see you go back to your corrections, and you can use any of your correction tools, your spot healing brush, and go back and get rid of some little extra details. You know, use the things that you've learned before, and you'll get a better grade. So that's it. I'm all done. Enjoy.